Did you know Blake Lively was almost cast as the younger version of Elizabeth Sparkle? Yes, that Elizabeth Sparkle, the iconic character at the heart of a deeply emotional indie drama about beauty, youth, and identity. For a brief moment, it seemed Blake was about to take on one of her most challenging roles yet. On paper, it was a perfect fit. Blake had the high-fashion image, A-list star power, and a track record of playing bold, seductive women with a hint of danger. She'd played the bad girl before, and audiences loved her for it. The plan was to create a striking contrast between the vibrant, magnetic young Elizabeth and her more complex, weathered older self, a clever narrative weaving two timelines into one powerful transformation spanning decades. But behind the scenes, things quickly got complicated. That's where Demi Moore came in. The moment Demi officially signed on to play the older Elizabeth Sparkle, everything shifted.
Setting is, heightened by the mere fact that it's, Elizabeth is somebody in the public eye. She's an actress, but it's, and so there are greater expectations and challenges that come when you are out front facing and with judgments and criticisms that come from the outside.
Demi's presence brought serious gravitas to the project. Her name carried weight and legacy, a testament to her years of experience and hard work. But insiders say Blake wasn't thrilled with the final casting choice. It wasn't about Demi's talent, the concern was how the visual contrast might make Blake appear not young enough. Sources close to the production reveal that Blake quietly pushed for a more seasoned-looking actress to play the older Elizabeth, arguing it would create a more believable timeline. But the producers weren't convinced.
Say, okay, I believe in this, and that's why I'm standing up for it, and that's why I'm not being difficult. And then there are other moments to go like, am I the asshole in the room? Like, what is happening here? I would show up on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look cute and stand on a little pink sticker where I'm supposed to go and say what I'm supposed to say. But I also knew that that wasn't fulfilling for me, that I wanted to be a part of the storytelling, that I wanted to be a part of the narrative, whether that be in the writing, in the costume design, and creating the character. And sometimes I had directors or producers or writers who would welcome that and invite that once they saw that I was able to offer that. And sometimes I would have people who really resented that because they were like, we just hired you to be an actor. Yet when I went in the meetings, I would just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig. I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug pull because you're like, you're trying to assert yourself into something that we didn't hire you to do. And so it was a really strange position to be in because I felt like I don't want to just be an actor. Like I want to have more authorship.
It didn't take long for the producers to realize this wasn't about creative consistency, it was about control. Adding another layer to the situation, Blake had just given birth shortly before entering talks for the film. While no one faulted her for needing time to recover, what began as gentle scheduling concerns soon escalated into a string of requests that complicated production planning. She allegedly asked to delay the shoot until she felt more comfortable with her body, along with requests for post-baby flattering costumes and camera angles. While no one questioned her right to feel confident, these demands quickly became a logistical headache. One producer recalled Blake emailing suggestions on how the wardrobe team could rework the character's outfits to better suit her post-pregnancy figure. Then came lighting notes, debates about which side of her face should be favored on camera, and even proposed dialogue tweaks to make the character feel more modern. But the biggest clash arose over the script's emotional centerpiece, the younger Elizabeth's vulnerable, raw performance, including a tasteful nude scene essential to the story's transformative arc. Blake, despite having done risque roles before, strongly objected to the nudity, demanding the scene be rewritten or cut entirely. She argued that showing skin wasn't necessary to convey pain. Writers and Demi Moore, who was committed to embodying the character's full vulnerability, disagreed. Blake's resistance was seen as a red flag, not just setting boundaries but reshaping the character to fit her own insecurities. And this was before she'd officially landed the role. What shocked the team further was Blake's apparent assumption that she was already cast. She began submitting rewritten dialogue and concept notes for scenes before contracts were signed, with ideas for the opening montage, suggestions on framing flashbacks, and even a request to rewrite the ending so her younger Elizabeth could appear again, despite the story focusing on the older character's conclusion. One producer called it a hijack attempt, another described it as a red carpet takeover before the invite was even sent. The final straw came when Blake requested a co-producer credit, claiming her input had already shaped several aspects of the project. That's when the team quietly but decisively pulled the plug. The script reverted to its original form, the timeline was restored, and Demi Moore moved forward as the star and heart of the film. No public announcements followed, but insiders knew the truth. Blake had tried to reshape a character in her own image and Hollywood was taking note. Once the dust settled, the decision to drop Blake came swiftly and quietly. Exhausted by delays, rewrites, and premature power plays, the producers reached a consensus. The film needed stability, and Blake, with her mounting demands and insecurities, was too much of a risk. Her hesitation over nudity, production delays, and early attempts to assert control were simply untenable. But even after her exit, the damage lingered. Rumors surfaced that Blake had made disparaging remarks about Demi Moore, mocking her appearance as overly worked on and frozen. Such comments, when they reached Demi, cut deep, especially given the vulnerability the role required. Demi, who had remained professional throughout, reportedly took this as the final straw. Since then, the two have not spoken, neither privately nor professionally, cementing a silent feud. When Margaret Qualley was brought in as the younger Elizabeth, most of the team breathed a sigh of relief. Margaret's understated range, ethereal yet grounded, fit the role perfectly, without any drama. But Blake wasn't happy. Insiders say she quietly threw shade in private, questioning Margaret's casting and even claiming Margaret wasn't beautiful enough to be a believable younger Demi. Some allege Blake remarked that Margaret didn't resemble Demi at all, and that the casting didn't make sense visually. Those comments spread quickly, reaching Margaret herself. Typically warm and composed at public events, Margaret reportedly made a pointed statement weeks later at an industry mixer, walking right past Blake without a glance or nod. The slight did not go unnoticed. For someone as measured as Margaret, this was a clear message. Blake's bitterness was alienating her from the very circle she longed to stay in. This incident fits a larger pattern Hollywood is starting to recognize. From her reported attempts to override creative teams on It Ends With Us to rumors of her pushing for production control before even being cast in Barbie, Blake's ambition isn't the issue, it's her approach. Time and again, she tries to bend projects to her will instead of adapting, causing friction with collaborators. These aren't blockbuster-scale flops. They're smaller, personal stories that thrive on trust and vulnerability, not branding or ego. Yet Blake seems unable to resist hijacking every project she touches. What began as a hopeful casting turned into a minefield of vanity, manipulation, and creative clashes. This was never just about acting, it was about control, image, and protecting perceived flaws at the expense of the story and other artists. Now, the Elizabeth Sparkle project moves forward without Blake, but with its dignity intact. Demi Moore, unshaken by the drama, remains the film's heart, while Margaret Qualley brings fresh, thoughtful energy to the younger role Blake once sought to claim. As for Blake, she's left watching from the sidelines, once again reminded that not every set can be rewritten to fit her personal narrative.